Incredible story revealed, how one heartwarming gesture from a janitor saved a CEO's life in 12 seconds. The air in the skyscraper buzzed with tension as Rebecca sat in the boardroom, surrounded by cold glass and colder stares. Her heart pounded. Today's presentation could change everything. The deal everyone had been waiting for hung in the balance, and the weight of the expectation constricted around her chest like a vice. With every word she spoke, she felt more and more alone, standing on an island of ambition while the world around her spun relentlessly. Just then, chaos engulfed her. Her mind raced, the ceiling loomed, and she could hardly catch her breath. Meanwhile, in the dimly lit hallway, Jake, the janitor, was hard at work. He pushed his mop across the glossy floor, remembering how small-town life used to feel like a warm embrace. It was community that made people whole, more than riches or big jobs ever could. As he worked, the distant echoes of high heels and frantic voices reached his ears, pulling him from thoughts of his family's sacrifices, his mother's unwavering strength, her late nights, her worn hands. Suddenly, the air shifted. He heard a muffled gasp behind the conference doors. His instincts kicked in. After all, he'd learned from his mother that everyone deserves a helping hand. Taking a deep breath, he approached. As the door swung open, there she was, Rebecca, kneeling, her face pale, fists clenched, panic etched across her features. In that split second, time felt like it stretched, and Jake knew he had to do something. "Hey, are you okay?" he asked gently, kneeling beside her, his rough exterior contrasting sharply with the polished glamour of the corporate world. With one simple gesture, he placed a comforting hand on her back. It wasn't some grand corporate resolve, but genuine concern. "Just breathe. One breath at a time," he said, his voice soothing, grounded, reminding her of simpler, warmer days. Against that backdrop of harsh fluorescence, something softened in her heart. Jake's presence was a touchstone, a reminder that beneath suits and ties, they were simply human, fearful, hopeful, resilient. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. Their eyes met, and suddenly the walls around her seemed less imposing. In that moment, his humility bridged their worlds, stirring something unfamiliar in Rebecca, a desire for connection beyond the rigid facade of corporate success. In the heart of Chicago, two lives intertwined, finding spark amidst the chaos. But the struggles weren't over. News swept through the building that corporate changes were coming, threatening Jake's job. The friendships they formed faced jeopardy, testing loyalty against ambition. Jake felt the weight of his family's dreams pressed against his shoulders while Rebecca grappled with the hollowness of her climb. The ground felt unsteady as decisions loomed. Would ambition tear their newfound bond apart? As silence descended upon them once more, a challenge lay ahead. Would Rebecca choose the cold brightness of success or the warmth of community found in friendship? The city hummed around them, the question lingering in the air, leaving both of them wondering what they'd risk to save each other. The sound of Rebecca's quickened breath hung in the air, a reminder of what was at stake. Just moments before, she had been a figure of authority, a leader poised to close a life-changing deal. Now, vulnerability coursed through her veins, more potent than the assertiveness she usually wore like armor. For the first time in a long time, she felt weightless, caught between the fear of loss and the warmth of connection. Jake remained steady beside her, his hand still resting on her back. "You've got this," he encouraged as flashes of doubt darted in her gaze. How could someone like him truly understand the depths of corporate ambitions? He was here to clean the floors, not seal million-dollar deals. But as he looked at her, the tenderness in his brown eyes assured her that success didn't have to overshadow kindness. Rebecca straightened her back, feeding off his calm. For the first time, she realized her life's purpose extended beyond her career. It was about impact, about being part of a community that truly mattered. She had always chased success, but now she wondered what that meant if it came at the cost of true connections. Would she fight to keep Jake from slipping away into the shadows? As their unspoken bond grew, the distant chime of a corporate bell split through the air, signaling a break, an unwelcome interruption for Rebecca. It jolted her back into reality, to the looming presentation that still awaited her. "I have to," she started to say, but Jake squeezed her shoulder before she could second-guess herself. "Take your time," he urged, a soft smile breaking across his face. "You can crush it, and if you need me, I'll be right here." His assurance grounded her, providing an anchor against the storm threatening to engulf her once again. With a nod, Rebecca composed herself and stood, turning toward the door with slow determination. She pushed through the threshold, stepping back into a world that felt both familiar and foreign. The boardroom was now alive with murmurs, everyone's eyes glued to her as if sensing the shift in her presence. The presentation commenced, but Rebecca knew her mind was elsewhere, dancing in and out of moments she had shared with Jake. Each slide served not just as a metric of her success but as a reflection of her values. What to prioritize, the numbers on a page or the bond of friendship she had found in a person she once overlooked? Once finished, she took a moment before the applause faded. "Thank you all for your attention today. But before we discuss next steps, I want to acknowledge something important. The relationships we build and the trust we cultivate matter more than any deal we can seal. Our community is our greatest asset, and we need to protect it." The boardroom fell silent, shock rippling through the room. As the meeting adjourned, Rebecca's heart raced, not from the anxiety of the presentation but from something deeper. She glanced toward the hall, where Jake remained, watching her with a knowing smile. In that moment, she felt the gravitational pull of their connection, a longing to bridge the gap between their worlds, but with the corporate shakeup looming, whispers about Jake's role echoed in the back of her mind. Suddenly, she was faced with a daunting choice. Should she advocate for a janitor's place or let the tides of ambition sweep her back to the elite alone? The decision loomed ahead like a storm cloud, heavy with anticipation. Would she risk it all to stand up for what mattered? Would she let their connection flourish or cower to corporate greed? The answers lay unfinished in her heart, a thrilling uncertainty nudging her forward. The elevator doors opened with a ding, and Jake stepped into the light. "So what happens next?" he asked, hope glimmering in his eyes. Suddenly, the course of their lives shifted like a breath of fresh air, and Rebecca realized the stakes had never been higher. With the future they could build together hanging in the balance, she answered, feeling the weight of destiny on her shoulders. "I guess we're about to find out." The air in the boardroom felt electric, charged with an uncertainty that Rebecca couldn't shake. As the last applause faded, the reality of her position washed over her in waves. Her words had lingered in the air, but the whispers behind her back were louder and harder to ignore. What just happened? She could hear murmurs saying, she must be losing it. But she had to push those thoughts aside. She turned to Jake, who stood just outside the boardroom door, the gentle flicker of worry evident in his eyes. "Are you sure you want to stand by my side in this?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Jake stepped forward, closing the distance between them. "Absolutely. You did something brave today. You used your voice to uplift the people we can easily forget." His sincerity wrapped around her like a warm blanket. Rebecca felt the weight of his words. She knew that in her heart, she was still teetering on the edge of her life's biggest choice. "I can't let the corporate machine crush what we've built. I've worked too hard for this," she muttered, eyes shifting to the polished floor. "What if that's not the only thing at stake here?" Jake's question hung in the air, challenging her to reconsider the boundaries she had set around her ambition. The next hours blurred into an overwhelming rush of meetings and conversations. The board chairman, with icy resolve, launched into a discussion about recent cuts to optimize efficiency. Those words felt like shards of ice stabbing into Rebecca's resolve. She glanced at Jake through a glass panel. He was cleaning a conference room, his presence still illuminating a path forward for her. The decision about the layoffs loomed, but so did the growing bond with Jake. Could she really risk throwing everything away for a janitor, even one who touched her heart so deeply? She wrestled with fear. What would her peers think? As the day wore on, she collected herself, entering the hallway where Jake was situated. "I have a proposal," she said, choosing her words carefully. His brow furrowed in curiosity, punctuated by the faint scent of cleaning solutions and determination. "You want to save that job of mine?" He joked lightly, but the underlying seriousness in his tone tugged at Rebecca's heart. "Actually, I want to save more than just that," she replied, feeling her pulse quicken. "I want to build a program where every voice counts, where every position matters, even if it seems small. Let us not just be numbers on a spreadsheet." The look in Jake's eyes changed, morphing from amused disbelief to something sincere and vulnerable. "You'd really do that? For all of us?" Rebecca nodded fiercely. "Absolutely. I know what it's like to feel like an outsider. I won't let anyone else feel that way again. It matters." Just then, the company's HR director appeared, casting a shadow over their moment. "Rebecca," she began, "we need to discuss your comments during the meeting. They're causing quite a stir. You're stirring up trouble. You need to toe the line." Rebecca's heart raced as she considered the implications of standing up for what was right. She felt the pressure close in on her but glanced back at Jake. His supportive gaze sparked courage within her. "I'm not going to back down this time," she declared, her voice firm. "If we don't speak for those who can't, what is the point of any of this?" Silence followed, thick with tension. Jake's eyes held hers, filled with admiration, as if she had just soared into a new realm of possibilities. But just as quickly, she felt the weight of potential backlash snapping at her heels. The HR director's expression was unreadable, but she sensed the storm gathering. "What will you do, Rebecca?" she asked, the challenge unmistakable in her tone. With everything teetering on the brink, Rebecca took a breath deep enough to fill her lungs with possibility. "I'll rise to the challenge, but you have to understand why this matters." Suddenly, the world around her blurred, leaving the path ahead uncertain yet filled with newfound purpose. Jake stepped beside her, the bond between them unbreakable. But in that moment, as the HR director's eyes narrowed, Rebecca felt the swell of doubt. Would her choice lead to triumph or undoing? What happens next? She couldn't help but wonder, fear whispering its harsh words. The elevator doors loomed ahead, opening to an unknown future, and the decision she made would change everything for them both. Would she take the plunge? The tension in the boardroom was palpable. The HR director's eyes narrowed, and Rebecca could see her calculating the implications of her defiance. Time hung in the air, waiting. The sharp click of her heels echoed as she stepped forward, like a metronome ticking down to a climax they all felt but dared not voice. "What is it going to be, Rebecca?" The challenge dripped from the director's lips, but behind it lay an unspoken fear. She could see it, a fear of change, of losing control. Maybe even a fear that Rebecca could become a force of reckoning in their corporate machine. Rebecca's heart raced. She felt the walls closing in, but also the warmth of Jake's unyielding gaze at her side. Staring into their HR director's steely confidence, Rebecca felt herself shift from the precipice of doubt to the ground of determination. "I've spent years building this career, but not just for me. I want to take the risk to give a voice to those who are silenced." Jake's presence was empowering. She remembered how the world looked when she first began to speak. In that moment, it didn't matter if she was surrounded by towering executives or the quiet, earnest gestures of a janitor. She was ready, her voice was steady, heart full. "We need to change the way we think about this company. Every single employee deserves respect and acknowledgement, no matter their position. We can't keep pretending that salaries are the only thing that matters. You know it's wrong." The HR director crossed her arms, her defenses bracing against the undeniable truth. "You think you can change years of tradition overnight?" She shot back, disbelief coating every syllable. "I know I can, if we take the first step together," Rebecca insisted. What do we have if we don't offer this kindness? Loss? Dismissal? I refuse to lead a company that sacrifices its people for the sake of profit. Her words flowed out, bold and unyielding. Behind her, murmurs erupted in the boardroom. Fellow executives exchanged glances, the seeds of doubt taking root even in the few who had sided against her before. Slowly, Rebecca's resolve began to shift the room's energy. Yet, before she could bask in any victory, a deep silence fell as she turned to Jake. His eyes sparkled with pride, a reflection of the courage she had summoned, and a promise of support. But deep down, she felt an uneasiness creeping in. Could she truly carry this momentum forward without losing everything she had worked for? As the board began to discuss potential strategies for change, Rebecca's mind sprinted ahead. She envisioned the challenges ahead, how the current leadership might push back, how colleagues could misinterpret her intentions, how the balance she needed might remain elusive. "Don't lose sight of what you could achieve," Jake whispered, as if reading her tangled thoughts. He was right. She needed to fight for the values that mattered, for the people who were counted out, but would her colleagues rally behind her? It was one thing to inspire a vision but another to coax it into existence. Before the meeting concluded, Rebecca was called to present her ideas more formally. As she stepped up to the front, a flicker of doubt threatened to extinguish the fire in her heart. What if they don't listen? What if I fail? The inner voice was nagging. But Jake's encouragement kept spiraling in her mind. Together, he had said. When Rebecca took a deep breath, filled with hope and fear alike, she prepared to dive into her proposal. Yet, there was a nagging uncertainty lingering at the back of her mind. What repercussions might she face for this? What if she lost everything? What if her heartfelt gesture ripped more walls than it could build? With every beat of her racing heart, she knew one truth: she had come too far to turn back now. Would they embrace her vision, or dismiss it altogether? The echoes of every life at stake came crashing inside her, bringing her back to the present. She would have to find out soon. She could either step into the light or retreat into the shadows. As her voice broke through the awkward silence, she realized the moment had arrived. Would she have the courage to lead this charge to change? Her future, and potentially the futures of everyone around her, waited on the edge of her next words. Rebecca felt the weight of those around her, a sea of faces both curious and skeptical. The room seemed to shrink as she opened her mouth to speak, but the fire within her surged. She clutched her notes, her lifeline in this storm. This was it, her moment. "I believe that every voice in this room matters," she began, her words firm. "But it's not just our voices. It's every individual in this company. They work tirelessly, often behind the scenes, and it's time we recognize them." A ripple of surprise washed over the attendees. A few shifted in their chairs, arms uncrossed, intrigued. "This isn't just about a company's bottom line," she continued. "It's about building a community. We need to create an environment where everyone feels valued. A janitor's impact is just as significant as a CEO's." The HR director's expression hardened, but behind her narrowed eyes, Rebecca could see uncertainty bubbling beneath the surface. Other executives whispered among themselves, their conversation mixing with murmurs of agreement. Rebecca took a moment, her heart thudding loudly now, chasing after courage. "I'm asking you to join me in making that change. Let us initiate an employee recognition program, where every month we celebrate the unsung heroes, those who go above and beyond without being seen. Give them a platform. Let us raise those voices." Jake's supportive nod behind her stoked her confidence. He was a lighthouse in her tumultuous sea, guiding her home. "Imagine this," she continued, "a gathering where the cleaning staff feels just as important as the board members. People sharing stories, connecting, feeling like they truly belong. When people see their worth, they excel beyond expectations. That's how a company grows. It grows in heart." She paused to look into the eyes of her colleagues, searching for encouragement. Imagine a janitor being recognized for his role in keeping the place together instead of merely being seen as invisible labor. What happens here could ripple outwards. We could change lives, and in turn, we change our workplace. Rebecca noticed a few nodding in silent agreement. It was a shift, small, but monumental. The HR director's voice cut through the atmosphere like a blade. And what if this doesn't work? She challenged, arms tightly crossed once more. What if it becomes a distraction? Rebecca took a deep breath, leaning into her gut reaction. What if this ignites a fire in our culture? This isn't about distraction, it's about connection. Amid all the challenges, let us work together to uplift and recognize everyone. With that, we're not only investing in people but also in our company's future. The room fell silent again, except now it was thicker with contemplation rather than tension. The murmurs had grown quieter, replaced with the sound of shifting ideas. Suddenly, the door opened with a soft creak, and the company's janitor peeked in, wiping his hands on his jumpsuit, ready to clean up after the meeting. Rebecca felt a spark ignite inside her. This moment was pivotal. Her heart raced with possibility. Would they truly see the potential in what she was proposing? Or would they dismiss it as yet another disruptive idea from a woman who wasn't supposed to speak up? Jake stepped forward, a small smile breaking through his nerves. If we can recognize the talent around us, then we can change this place for good, he said, locking eyes with Rebecca, giving her the nudge she didn't know she needed. With growing determination, she declared, let us give everyone in this company the chance to shine. If we fail, we'll fail together. But if we succeed, Rebecca trailed off, allowing hope to hang in the air. The weight of potential success loomed larger now, calling forth all the employees, past and present, who had ever felt invisible. This is only the beginning, she whispered, mostly to herself, as inspiration surged through her veins. She stood taller now, her voice no longer shaking. Would they see this as an opportunity to unite, or would it become another battle in a system designed to divide? The answer lay in the hands of those around her, but Rebecca had played her hand. Now, the boardroom awaited their decision. Was this the change she had been fighting for, or would her dream slip through her fingers like sand? Rebecca took a tentative step back, ready for whatever was to come next. The silence in the boardroom felt like an eternity. Rebecca's heart pounded in her chest, each beat echoing against the uncertainty. Faces were turned toward the janitor, who remained at the door, unsure whether to step inside or retreat. Suddenly, the weight of his presence felt monumental, an unexpected catalyst in this momentous decision. Then the HR director broke the stillness, her voice now softer, curiosity sparking behind her steely demeanor. What do you think? She asked, glancing between Rebecca and the janitor. Do you have thoughts on this? The janitor hesitated, then cleared his throat. I may just be the cleaning guy, he started, his voice steady, but I've seen the toll that stress and feeling undervalued takes on folks. We all have our roles. Everyone deserves respect. His eyes swept across the room, pausing on Rebecca, who felt warmth spread through her. A few executives murmured agreements. Rebecca dared to hope that perhaps, just maybe, they would see the truth in what he was saying. She watched as the HR director's expression shifted, a faint glimmer of understanding replacing her earlier skepticism. What's your name? Rebecca asked, urging the janitor into the light. Henry, he replied, his shoulders straightening a bit more. I've been here for 12 years. I've seen people come and go. The ones who feel recognized, I've seen them do amazing things. But it starts with feeling seen. Henry's words flowed like a soothing balm over the tension in the room. The executives exchanged glances as if trying to process the impact of a janitor speaking so openly in such a formal setting. Rebecca could feel the mood begin to shift, a whisper of camaraderie sprouting amidst skepticism. The CFO leaned forward, tapping his pen against his notepad thoughtfully. It's true, he said, surprise evident in his voice. Last week, one of the IT guys mentioned how he felt like just a number in the system. But if we did what Rebecca suggested? The energy in the room began to change. Conversations whispered a few ideas as they played with the thought of this recognition program. Moments passed, then Rebecca, seizing the opportunity, took a step closer to her colleagues. Imagine the culture we could create. One where kindness breeds productivity. Where every single person contributes to the greater good. When they feel cared for, the work reflects it. Her voice was gaining momentum now, carried by an undercurrent of hope. At that moment, Rebecca noticed a slight nod from the HR director. It was subtle but unmistakable, the first sign of acceptance, yet, amid this sea of potential agreement, a voice emerged from the back of the room. And what if we don't? It was the CFO, skepticism still flickering in his eyes. What if we waste resources on what ultimately doesn't translate to our profits? The air chilled. Doubt was still lurking, ready to bite if they permitted it to take root. Rebecca took a deep breath. What if it does? She countered, her voice steady despite the uncertainty gripping her. What if it brings new life to people's roles? Inspiration. We've tried cold systems, and they've missed the heart of what we do. At time we prioritize people. This was the moment she had been waiting for, yet another challenge rang out, more fearsome than before, threading the air with tension. Would the board embrace this idea, or would they let fear pave the way again? Henry took a step forward again, emboldened by Rebecca's words. I've seen people thrive when they feel they matter. Isn't that worth something? His simple plea hung in the air, raw and vulnerable. Rebecca's heart raced. She held her breath as a silence settled over them, waiting for the response, the decision that could change everything. What would happen next hinged precariously on this moment, and in a corner of the room, the HR director adjusted her gaze toward Rebecca, the walls of doubt beginning to crack. Would she stand up and support this vision, or would she remain a barrier against change? The boardroom held its breath, caught in the balance. Rebecca knew that it wouldn't be just her battle anymore, it was for every unseen worker fighting for their acknowledgement. Would it be enough? Or was she simply dreaming in shades of hope? As the tension built, a thought flickered through her mind: this was just the beginning of a long journey. But could they take that first step together? Would hope and unity emerge from the ashes of skepticism? The silence stretched out, thick and heavy, until it was almost palpable. Rebecca glanced at Henry beside her, nerves coursing through her. She was desperate for this moment to matter, for it to spark something transformative. The HR director's expression could tilt the balance, a flickering light against the shadows of doubt. Finally, the director cleared her throat, breaking the silence. You make a good point, Henry, she said softly, her authoritative mask beginning to crack. But this is a business. We need tangible results. Rebecca's pulse quickened. And a motivated workforce can yield results, she countered, urgency creeping into her voice. What if we invest in the people first? The results will follow. The CFO interrupted, still unconvinced. You can't measure kindness or happiness. Metrics matter. Rebecca felt a sting at his words. More than numbers were at stake here. But morale, she insisted, can lead to retention, innovation, and loyalty. A thriving community, it's what businesses need to grow. The murmurs began to swirl again, some agreeing with her, others still hesitant. All around, the boardroom felt like a battlefield. Ideas clashed like swords. And yet, a spark ignited in the air. I saw this happen at my last job, another executive chimed in. We started a recognition program, and people were happier and more productive. Hope began to spread through Rebecca like sunlight breaking through the clouds. She seized the moment. See. If just one person can change the atmosphere, imagine what several could do. A culture of appreciation could revive us. Henry stepped forward again. It's simple actually. Everyone deserves to be seen and valued. That's the heart of this. His voice, steady and sincere, seemed to resonate with everyone there. The tension in the room began to light up with flickers of agreement. Executives who had once hunched in skepticism now sat up, leaning forward. Rebecca's heart soared. This had shifted. But then, a wave of anxiety washed over her. Was it enough? Was the board truly ready to embrace change? Her mind raced through logistics and consequences, uncertainty creeping in just as quickly as hope had risen. Let us consider a pilot program, Rebecca offered, desperately searching for a middle ground that might pull them together. We can start small, see how it impacts morale and productivity. If it fails, we'll pivot. But if it works, the possibilities danced in the air around her. One of the executives raised an eyebrow, intrigued. It would offer a chance to gauge interest without full commitment. The HR director's gaze flickered back to Rebecca, weighing the options. You might be right. A smaller initiative could be successful. Something manageable. The board took a collective breath, lingering around the idea. It felt almost surreal, this moment of potential. Rebecca couldn't help but smile, a warmth spreading through her heart. They were leaning toward change, and yet, she couldn't shake the residual anxiety. Together, we could build this, she encouraged, sensing a shared excitement blooming, but then came an unexpected voice, a heavy, deep tone echoing from the back. What if it doesn't work? What if our resources go to waste? Rebecca turned slowly, heart dropping. The voice was familiar, filled with a calculated skepticism that sent a chill through her. It was Adam, a longtime board member known for his resistance to change. All eyes turned to him, the room thick with anticipation. Would he throw a wrench in their momentum? Would he strip away the hope they had just begun to build? Holding her breath, Rebecca locked eyes with Henry, drawing strength from him. This was their last chance to turn the tide. Change, it's always a risk, she said, her voice unwavering. But what kind of legacy do we want to leave? One where we tried, or one where we held on to fear? The silence that followed felt like a murky pool, dark and deep. It held possibilities and uncertainties all at once. Rebecca didn't know which direction it would tilt, but she felt it clinging to the air, fragile hope. Hearts raced. Around the room, breaths held in anticipation. And in that pivotal moment, as they waited for Adam to respond, Rebecca realized she was not alone anymore. This fight was no longer hers alone. But could they withstand the pushback? What was the path ahead, and would they find strength in unity, or would they falter one last time? The mystery lingered, climbing with every heartbeat. All eyes stayed glued to Adam, their thoughts spinning. Rebecca could feel the weight of every gaze. She hoped for encouragement, for Adam to surprise her in a way she never expected. After what felt like an eternity, Adam leaned forward, hands clasped together. I see what everyone is saying, he began, voice low yet steady, but change, it brings unpredictability. The last initiative we implemented was headed in the wrong direction, the executive across from him interjected, sensing an opening. We need new energy, not a repeat of past mistakes. The tension in the room shifted again. Adam's lips pressed together in thought. Perhaps we can find a compromise. A pilot program, he let that hang in the air, with metrics in place to measure success. Rebecca's heart lifted, hope sparking brighter. Exactly, Adam. We need benchmarks. But let us focus on the human aspect too. We can create a feedback loop that encourages staff input. Her enthusiasm seemed to ignite something in those around her. She could see heads nodding, eyes brightening. Each word they spoke began to stitch a tapestry of promise in the air. Adam looked around the table, finally leaning back in his chair, arms crossed. Fine. I'll give this a shot. But I want transparency. If we go down this path, I need to feel it working. Everyone will be involved, Henry chimed in, clearly relieved. This isn't just a top-down initiative. We want to hear from everyone. The HR director smiled faintly, her mask of authority slipping away as excitement bubbled back into the conversation. I think we have something worth exploring. Let us draft a proposal for a pilot. Set goals, timelines, and then roll it out cautiously. Cheering murmurs resonated through the room. Rebecca breathed deeper, letting out a quiet sigh of relief. This was progress, real, tangible progress. But beneath her exhilaration, doubt still whispered. Sure, they agreed, but how could they maintain momentum? What if old fears set in again? As her pulse gradually slowed, a different voice pierced her thoughts, one she'd almost forgotten about. And what happens if it backfires? If we lose money and productivity? A younger executive, one who hadn't spoken much before, gazed nervously at everyone. We're taking a huge risk. Sure, we risk things every day, Rebecca replied firmly, meeting the young man's eyes. But isn't it worth it? Perhaps this is the kind of risk we should be embracing. Real growth comes from challenges. As the conversation swelled, Rebecca felt the tides turning again. The doubts were still there, of course, lurking like shadows, but they seemed to be losing ground. It felt like they were edging closer to something revolutionary. Okay, Adam said slowly, nodding as if coming to a realization. Let us give it a name, something that means to us. At that moment, the board turned into a brainstorming session. Ideas jetted across the table, Project Heart, Thrive Together, each suggestion triggering bursts of laughter and inspiration. Rebecca couldn't help but smile. For the first time today, a spark of enthusiasm lit her chest. When everyone paused, Rebecca spoke up again. What if we kick it off with a celebration? Something that gets everyone involved right from the start. Cheers erupted around the table. The air was electric, filled with newfound energy. She could see the power of collaboration unfolding, the potential of unity taking root. But just as excitement rose to its peak, Rebecca couldn't shake the question rattling in her mind. What if they couldn't sustain the fire they had just lit? Could they endure the inevitable challenges that the future would present? No matter what, she mused, smiling through the uncertainty, we'll face it together. With that thought lingering, she glanced at Henry, who returned her gaze, a silent promise passing between them. As the meeting drew to a close, they stood at the brink of change, hearts buzzing with possibility. But would that promise hold true when the inevitable tests came? Would their initial triumph carry through the hard days ahead? The boardroom door opened, leading them back into the familiar corridors, but a new narrative had begun, one of hope, resilience, and growth. And the biggest questions were just ahead, waiting to be answered. The atmosphere in the corridor was palpably different as Rebecca and the others left the room. The buzz of excitement swirled around her like a warm embrace. She could see the lightness on Henry's face, the glimmer of hope in his eyes, and felt a renewed sense of purpose lifting the weight off her own shoulders. Did we really just do that? She asked, grinning widely at him. You bet we did, he replied, and they both shared a laugh, a moment of joy that broke through the tension they'd been battling. It was a simple recognition of their small victory, yet it felt monumental. As they wound their way back to their respective desks, Rebecca couldn't shake off the feeling that it was only the beginning. Yes, the meeting had gone well, ideas flourished, creativity reignited. But creased within the fabric of their collective enthusiasm remained the potential for failure. How could they navigate the rocky terrain ahead? When she reached her office, its walls seemed to close in with a stark reminder of the challenges looming. She took a moment to gather herself. She closed her eyes and inhaled deeply, exhaling all the doubts that still clung close. Finally, she flicked on her computer, the screen lighting up with a flurry of emails. A wave of exhaustion crashed over her as she scanned the messages, but she couldn't drown in worries. The triumph of that meeting felt like the smallest seed of change planted inside her. If they could cultivate it right, it might grow into something extraordinary. Hey, can I steal you for a second? Henry's voice broke through her concentration, and she turned to see him leaning against her door frame, concern etched on his brow. What's up? She asked, tilting her head, her interest piqued. It's Barbara. She's been acting a little distant lately, and I think it might be linked to the changes we're implementing. You know how she hates uncertainty. Rebecca sighed, her heart sinking at the thought. Barbara had always been their anchor in the office. You think she's worried about this new pilot project? I do. I can feel a shift, and I think she's scared of what this means for her role, Henry admitted. Rebecca ran a hand through her hair, frustration nodding within her. Change was never easy, and she understood that better than anyone. Let us talk to her. If she sees the potential we all do, maybe she'll feel more included, she said, heart hammering with determination. Yes. Let's do that, Henry replied, quick to nod. I think if we frame it as an opportunity for her to lead some aspects of the initiative, it might ease her mind. Gathering her courage, Rebecca agreed to reach out. She wanted to show Barbara that they were building this as a team, not just a handful of individuals at the top. As they made their way to find Barbara, they passed by the break room where laughter spilled out. A small team was gathered around a celebratory cake, marking their recent successes. The sight filled Rebecca with warmth. This was what they were aiming for, the spirit and unity of the whole organization rallying around a common goal. Halfway down the hall, Rebecca hesitated. What if Barbara reacts poorly? What if she shuts down? Henry put a hand on her shoulder. We can't control how she feels, but we can control how we support her. Let us approach it openly. With a deep breath, Rebecca nodded. Okay. Let us do this. As their footsteps echoed, dread and anticipation twisted in Rebecca's stomach, but she was ready to face it. The door swung wide to Barbara's office, and the moment felt surreal. As they stepped in, Rebecca noticed the slight furrow in Barbara's brow, a clear indication of her worries. But in that moment, Rebecca felt the weight of possibility, the chance to unite their team. What we just started is about all of us. Now it's time we prove it, Rebecca ventured, courage propelling her voice, but just before she could lay out her vision, a sudden phone call cut through the air, bringing with it unexpected news. The moment of confrontation was on the horizon, and Rebecca felt her heart race. What would this news mean for their carefully laid plans? The door of uncertainty creaked open wider, ready to reveal the unforeseen challenges ahead. The news hit Rebecca like a thunderclap, shaking her to her core. The board decided to put the pilot program on hold. The words echoed in the air like a cruel joke. Her heart sank. Panic swelled within her, bruising against her resolve. They had all fought so hard for this moment of change, and now it felt tantalizingly close yet impossibly out of reach. Wait, what? She whispered, disbelief creeping in. Why would they? We almost had a consensus. Her eyes darted between Henry and Barbara, who looked equally stunned. The office she had seen as a beacon of possibility felt bleak and heavy. This could set us back tremendously, Barbara added, her voice trembling as she sank into her chair. The momentum we built, it might just fall to dust. Rebecca's heart raced with urgency. She needed to act. This couldn't be how their journey ended. No, we can't let this happen, she said firmly. We need to gather support, show them it matters. She looked at Henry, who nodded, determination flaring behind his brown eyes. But how? We have to convince the entire board again, Barbara protested, folding her arms tightly around herself as fear wrapped around her. What if they're set in their ways? Rebecca leaned forward, pulling on every ounce of courage she had. That's the thing. We won't just convince them, we'll show them. Let us gather everyone, the unseen voices of every worker together. They need to know that they matter. In that moment, clarity washed over her. The power of community could ignite a fire unlike anything they had faced before. Let us host a meeting in the common area, Henry chimed in. Bring everyone together. It's time we united our voices. If the board sees the impact firsthand, they might reconsider. Yes. If we can demo the program before they ever vote on it, Rebecca's mind raced with possibilities. The more they could capture the heart of the organization, the more daring ideas could flourish. Let us plan it this afternoon, we'll make it urgent. In the hours that followed, her heart hammered as they rallied the troops. Emails flew, word spread like wildfire, and the common area transformed into an arena of hope. Bright banners and familiar faces began to spill in, each person a testament of the power inherent in unity. As the crowd gathered, Rebecca stood on a makeshift stage, her heart beating like a drum. Fear and excitement mingled within her as she met the sea of faces, her colleagues, fellow workers, and even friends. She would not let them down. "Thank you all for joining us," she started, her voice shaking slightly. "What we're doing right now is a declaration. This isn't just about one proposal, this is about us, a community that stands together." A warmth spread through the crowd at her words, a hint of affirmation. Henry stepped up beside her, and the connection felt electric. Every role matters. The janitor, the admin assistant, the downtrodden IT guy, everyone brings value. This is our opportunity to band together and protect every voice. He raised his hands, encouraging murmurs of agreement, heads nodding. We must show the board that our worth lies not in just profitability, but in the heart of our operations, the people, Rebecca urged, strength surging through her. She caught sight of Barbara, who now stood taller, brow unpressed with doubt. They need to see us united. As momentum surged, they went deeper into the voices that made up the fabric of their organization. Members of the cleaning staff recounted their experiences, the commitment they felt, even in the most overlooked role. Testimonials flowed, laughter mingling with tears as everyone shared their stories of determination and inspiration. This was their chance to share their heart. Hours later, the gathering broke into an electrifying celebration, a whirlwind of stories tethered by a common goal. Rebecca caught herself smiling through the chaos, of blissful realization buzzing around her. Hope sparkled in the air, perhaps this was the bridge to communicate their true potential to the board. As day turned into evening, worn yet exhilarated, she stepped aside with Henry and Barbara. "We definitely made an impact today," she said, grinning at them. "And the board will have to notice," Henry added, a glimmer of pride dancing in his eyes. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with vibrant colors, Rebecca felt a sense of clarity. Whatever happens next, we've shared our truth. We've ignited a fire, and maybe, just maybe, will light the way for something extraordinary to stand in the ashes of this uncertainty. In that moment, surrounded by newfound camaraderie, Rebecca understood, they were more than just colleagues, they were a force, ready to break barriers and pave the path to genuine humanity within the corporate world. And with that realization, a smile broke across her face as hope unfurled its wings, soaring high above the skyscraper they inhabited. Together, they could overcome, they could rise victoriously. Now, it's time for you to make a change. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that will inspire and uplift in your daily life. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Every single click matters and helps us grow. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this incredible ending. We want to hear from you, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation and this call to unity. Don't wait not even one more second. These moments of inspiration are for those who believe in support and change.